You are listening to a cassette recording of a channeling session from the Raw Contact, a series of 106 sessions that were conducted between 1981 and 1984, using a form of tuned trance telepathy. Throughout these sessions, a group of entities identified as Ra shared information regarding the Law of One, spiritual evolution, and a variety of esoteric topics through a series of questions and answers. The full-text transcript of these recorded sessions can be read for free at lnlresearch.org, where you can also learn more about this audio and its origins. This recording is intended for personal study and is not available for commercial use. Please contact LNL Research if you wish to use this audio in any other way.
Raha number 75, October 31st, 1981.
Well, I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now.
Could you first please give me the condition of the instrument?
I am Ra. It is as previously stated, with some slight lessening of the reserve of a vital energy due to mental, emotional distortions regarding what you call the future.
I felt that this session was advisable before the instrument, as her hospital experience, she wished to ask a few questions, if possible, about those. First, is there anything that the instrument or we might do to improve the hospital experience or to aid in, the instrument in any way with respect to this?
I am Ra. Yes, there are ways of aiding the mental, emotional state of this entity, with the notation that this is so only for this entity or one of like the distortions. There is also a general thing which may be accomplished to improve the location, which is called the hospital. The first aiding has to do with the vibration of the ritual with which this entity is most familiar and which this entity has long used to distort its perception of the one infinite creator. This is an helpful thing at any point in the diurnal period, but is especially helpful as your sun body removes itself from your local site. The general improvement of the place of the performance of the ritual of the purification of the place is known. We may note that the distortion towards love, as you call this, a spiritual, emotional complex, which is felt by each for this entity, will be of aid, whether this is expressed or unmanifest, as there is no protection greater than love.
Do you mean that it could be valuable to perform the banishing ritual of a lesser pentagram in the room that she will be occupying in the hospital?
I am Ra. This is correct.
I was wondering about the operating room. That might be very difficult. Would it be helpful there?
I am Ra. This is correct. We may note that it is always helpful. Therefore, it is not easy to posit a query to which you would not receive the answer which we offer. This does not indicate that it is essential to purify a place. The power of visualization may aid in your support where you cannot intrude in your physical form.
I see the way to do this as a visualization of the operating room and a visualization of the three of us performing the banishing ritual in the room as we perform it in another location. Is this the correct procedure?
I am Ra. This is one correct method of achieving your desired configuration.
Is there a better method than that?
I am Ra. There are better methods for those more practiced. For this group, this method is well.
I would assume those more practiced would leave their physical bodies and in the other body enter the room and practice the banishing ritual? Is this what you mean?
I am right. This is correct.
The instrument would like to know if she can meditate in the hospital without someone holding her hand. Would this be a safe practice for her?
I am right. We might suggest that the instrument may pray with safety, but only meditate with another entity's tactile protection.
The instrument would like to know what she could do to improve the condition of her back, or it's she says it will be a problem for the operation.
I am Ra. As we scan the physical complex, we find several factors contributing to one general distortion experienced by the instrument. Two of these distortions have been diagnosed. One has not, nor will the entity be willing to accept the chemicals sufficient to cause cessation of this distortion you call pain. In a general, we may say that the sole modality addressing itself specifically to all three contributing distortions, which is not now being used, is that of the warmed water which is moved with a gentle force repeatedly against the entire physical complex, while the physical vehicle is seated. This would be of some aid if practiced daily after the exercise period.
Did the exercise of the fire that was just performed before the session help the instrument?
I am Ra. There was some slight physical aid to the instrument. This will enlarge itself as the practitioner learns, teaches its healing art. Further, there is distortion in the mental, emotional complex which feeds the vital energy towards comfort due to the support, which tends to build up the level of vital energy as this entity is a sensitive instrument.
Was the exercise of fire properly done?
I am Ra. The baton is well visualized. The conductor will learn to hear the entire score of the great music of its art.
I assume that if this can be fully accomplished, that today that exercise would result in total healing of the distortions of the instrument to such an extent that operations would be unnecessary. Is this correct?
I am Ra. No.
What else is necessary? The instrument's acceptance.
I am Ra. This is correct. The case with this instrument being delicate, since it must totally accept much which the limitations it now experiences cause to occur involuntarily. This is a pre-incarnative choice.
The instrument would like to know why twice at the Benedictus portion of the music which she practices, did she experience what she believes to be a psychic attack?
I am Ra. This is not a minor query. We shall first remove the annotations which are minor. In the vibrating, which you call singing, of the portion of what this instrument hallows as the Mass, which immediately precedes that which is the chink, called the hosanna. There is an amount of physical exertion required that is exhausting to any entity. This portion of which we speak is termed the Sanctus. We come now to the matter of interest. When the entity Jehoshua decided to return to the location called Jerusalem for the holy days of its people. It turned from work mixing love and wisdom and embraced martyrdom, which is the work of love without wisdom. The Hosanna, as it is termed, and the following Benedictus is that which is the written summation of what was shouted as Jehoshua came into the place of its martyrdom. The general acceptance of this shout Hosanna to the Son of David. Hosanna in the highest. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. By that which is called the Church has been a misstatement of occurrence, which has been perhaps unfortunate, for it is more distorted than much of the so-called mass. There were two factions present to greet Jehoshua. Firstly, a small group of those which hoped for an earthly king. However, Jehoshua rode upon an ass, stating by its very demeanor that it was no earthly king and wished no fight with Roman or Sadducee. The greater number were those which had been instructed by rabbi and elder to make jest of this entity, for those of the hierarchy feared this entity, who seemed to be one of them, giving respect to their laws, and then in their eyes betraying those time-honored laws and taking the people with it. The chink for this instrument is this subtle situation which echoes down through your space-time. And more than this, the place the Hosanna holds as the harbinger of that turning to martyrdom. We may speak only generally here. The instrument did not experience the full force of the greeting which it correctly identified during the Hosanna, due to the intense concentration necessary to vibrate its portion of that composition. However, the Benedictus in this particular rendition of these words is vibrated by one entity. Thus, the instrument relaxed its concentration and was immediately open to the fuller greeting.
The chink, then, as I understand it, was originally created by the decision of Jesus to take the path of martyrdom. Is this correct?
I am wrong. This is in relation to this instrument quite correct. It is aware of certain overbalances towards love, even to martyrdom, but has not yet to any significant degree balanced these distortions. We do not imply that this course of unbridled compassion has any fault, but affirm its perfection. It is an example love, which has served as beacon to many. For must be considered, for in martyrdom lies the end of the opportunity in the density of the martyr to offer love and light. Each entity must seek its deepest path.
Let me see if I understand then how the Orion group finds a chink in this distortion. The entity identifying or having a distortion of any amount toward martyrdom is then open by its free will to the aid of the Orion group to make it a martyr. Am I correct?
I am wrong. You are correct only in the quite specialized position in which the instrument finds itself, that is of a being involved in and dedicated to work which is a magical or extremely polarized in nature. This group entered this work with polarity, but virtual innocence as to the magical nature of this polarity. It is a beginning to discover.
How was the Orion entity able to act through this linkage of the Hosanna? Was this simply because of the mental distortion of the instrument at this period of time because of the that suggested by the music, or was it a more physical or more metaphysical link from the time of Christ?
I am Ra. Firstly, the latter supposition is false. This entity is not linked with the entity Jehoshua. And secondly, there is a most unique circumstance. There is an entity which has attracted the attention of an Orion, a light being. This is extremely rare. This entity has an intense devotion to the teachings and example of the one it calls Jesus. This entity then vibrates in song a most demanding version called the Mass in B minor by Bach. Of this exemplary votive complex of sound of vibrations. The entity is consciously identifying with each part of this Mass. Only thusly was the chink made available. As you can see, it is not an ordinary occurrence and would not have happened had any ingredient been left out. Exhaustion, a bias in a belief complexes, attention from an Orion entity, and the metaphysical nature of that particular set of words.
What was the Orion entity's objective with respect to the entity you spoke of who, in a demanding manner, sings the Mass?
I am Ra. The Orion entity wishes to remove the instrument.
Is this a fourth or a fifth density entity?
I am Ra. This instrument is being greeted by a fifth density entity which has lost some polarity due to its lack of a dictatorship over the disposition of the instrument's mind, body, spirit, or its yellow ray activated physical complex.
You're speaking of this other person now that is singing the Mass, this is correct?
I am Ra. No.
I think there was a little miscommunication here. I was asking the other person who sings the Mass, who helped in creating this chink, you said was also greeted by an Orion entity, and my question was, what density was that entity that greets the other the person that sings the Mass?
I am Ra. We did not speak of any entity but the instrument.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought you were speaking of someone else in the singing group who had and when you were speaking of the identification with the singing, the entire time we were speaking, then we were speaking only of the instrument Carla, is this correct?
I am Ra. This is correct.
Sorry for the confusion. Sometimes, as you say, sound vibration complexes are not very adequate. I'm sorry. You made the statement in the previous session that the true adept lives more and more as it is. Will you explain and expand upon that statement?
I am Ra. Each entity is the creator. The entity as it becomes more and more conscious of its self, gradually comes to the turning point at which it determines to seek, either in service to others or in service to self. The seeker becomes the adept when it has balanced with minimal adequacy the energy centers, red, orange, yellow, and blue, with the addition of the green for the positive, thus moving into indigo work. The adept then begins to do less of the preliminary or outer work, having to do with function, and begins to affect the inner work, which has to do with being. As the adept becomes a more and more consciously crystallized entity, it gradually manifests more and more of that which it always has been since before time. That is the one infinite Creator.
The answer to this question probably has to do with our distorted view of time. But I see wanderers in this density who have come fifth or sixth density. Seems to me should all already be at a relatively high degree of adeptness, who must follow a slightly or somewhat different path back to the adeptness that they previously had in the higher density, and get as close to it as they can in third density. Is this correct?
I am Ra. Your query is less than perfectly focused. We shall address the subject in general. There are many wanderers whom you may call adepts, who do no conscious work in the present incarnation. It is a matter of attention. One may be a fine catcher of your game sphere, but if the eye is not turned as this sphere is tossed, then perchance it will pass the entity by. If it turned its eyes upon the sphere, catching would be easy. In the case of wanderers which seek to recapitulate the degree of adeptness which each had acquired previous to this life experience, we may note that even after the forgetting process has been penetrated, there is still the yellow ray activated body which does not respond as does the adept, which is of a green or a blue array activated body. Thusly, you may see the inevitability of frustrations and confusion due to the inherent difficulties of manipulating the finer forces of consciousness through the chemical apparatus of the yellow ray activated body.
Probably can't answer this, but are there any suggestions you could give with respect to the instruments coming, hospital experience that could be of benefit for her?
I am Ra. We may make one suggestion and leave the remainder with the Creator. It is well for each to realize its self as the Creator. Thusly, each may support each, including the support of a self by humble love of self as Creator.
We spoke in a previous session about certain Hebrew and Sanskrit sound vibratory complexes being powerful because they were mathematically related to that which was the creation. Could you expand on this understanding, please, as to how these are linked?
I am Ra. As we previously stated, the linkage is mathematical, or that of the ratio. You may consider it musical. There are those whose mind complex activities would attempt to resolve this mathematical ratio, but at present the coloration of the intoned vowel is part of the vibration which cannot be accurately measured. However, it is equivalent to types of rotation of your primary material particles.
Now, if these sounds are precisely vibrated, then what effect or use they have with respect to the purposes of the adept?
I am Ra. You may consider the concept of sympathetic resonance when certain sounds are correctly vibrated, the creation sings.
Would these sounds then be of a musical nature in that there would be a musical arrangement of many different sound vibrations, or would this apply to just one single note? Which would it apply more to?
I am Ra. This query is not easily answered. In some cases, only the intoned vowel has effect. In other cases, most notably Sanskrit combinations, the selection of harmonic intervals is also of resonant nature.
Then would the adept use this resonant quality to become more one with the creation and therefore attain his objective in that way?
I am Ra. It would perhaps be more accurate to state that in this circumstance the creation becomes more and more contained within the practitioner. The balance of your query is correct.
Could you tell me the musical name of the notes to be intoned that are of this quality?
I am Ra. We may not.
I didn't think you could, but I thought it wouldn't hurt to ask. Then I assume that these must be sought out and determined by empirical observation of their effect by the seeker. Is this correct?
I am Ra. This is partially correct. As your seeking continues, there will be added to empirical data that acuity of sensibility which continued working in the ways of the adept offers.
The three aspects of the magical personality are stated to be power, love, and wisdom. Is this correct? And are these the only primary aspects of the magical personality?
I am Ra. The three aspects of the magical personality, power, love, and wisdom, are so called in order that attention be paid to each aspect in developing the basic tool of the adept that is itself. It is by no means a personality of three aspects. It is a being of unity, being of sixth density and equivalent to what you call your higher self, and at the same time is a personality enormously rich in variety of experience and subtlety of emotion. The three aspects are given that the neophyte not abuse the tools of its trade, but rather approach those tools balanced in the center of love and wisdom, and thus seeking power in order to serve.
You mentioned in an earlier session that the hair was an antenna. Could you expand on that statement as to how that works?
I am Ra. It is difficult to so due to the metaphysical nature of this antenna effect. Your physics are concerned with measurements in your physical complex of experience. The metaphysical nature of the contact of those in time-space is such that the hair, as it has significant length, becomes as a type of electrical battery with contact.
Well, is there an optimum length of hair for this aid.
I am Ra. There is no outer limit on length, but the shall we say inner limit is approximately 4 to 4.5 inches, depending upon the strength of the contact and the nature of the instrument.
May anyone in third density accomplish some degree of healing if they have the proper will, desire, and polarity, or is there a minimal balance of energy centers of the healer that is also necessary?
I am Ra. Any entity may at any time instantaneously clear and balance its energy centers. Thus, in many cases, those normally quite blocked, weakened, and distorted may, through love and strength of will, become healers momentarily. To be a healer by nature, one must indeed train itself in the disciplines of the personality.
How does the use of the magical ritual of invoking the magical personality aid the mind-body-spirit complex totality? Would you expand on the answer you gave in the last session with respect to that?
I am Ra. When the magical personality is properly and efficaciously invoked, the self has invoked its higher self. Thus, a bridge betwixt space, time and time-space is made, and the sixth density, a magical personality, experiences directly the third density catalyst for the duration of the working. It is most central to deliberately take off the magical personality after the working, in order that the higher self resume its appropriate configuration as analog to the space-time, mind, body, spirit.
And you're saying that the act, the signal or key for the invoking of the magical personality, which is the putting something on, or a gesture, should be as carefully, you should as carefully take that something off or reverse the gesture perhaps at the end of the invocation. Is this correct?
I am wrong. This is correct. It should be fastidiously accomplished either in mind or by gesture as well, if this is of significant aid.
Now, the invocation of the magical personality is not necessarily effective for the neophyte. Is there a point at which there is a definite quantum change and that the personality does then reside, or can it be done in small degrees or percentages of magical personality as the neophyte becomes more adept?
I am wrong. The latter is correct.
And is it correct that a good sequence for developing the invocation of the magical personality are alternate meditations, first on power, then meditation on love, then meditation on wisdom, and to continue cycling that way? Is that an appropriate technique?
I am wrong. This is indeed an appropriate technique. In this particular group, there is an additional aid in that each entity manifests one of these qualities in a manner which approaches the archetype. Thusly, visualization may be personalized and much love and support within the group generated.
Is the exercise of fire the best for the instrument, or is there anything better that we could do other than, of course, the things that you've already suggested to aid the instrument?
I am Ra. Continue as you are at present. We cannot speak of the future, as we may then affect it. But there is a great possibility, if you follow the path which you now tread, that more efficacious methods for the entire group will be established. This instrument begins to show a rapid distortion towards increase of pain. We therefore would offer time for any brief queries before we leave this working.
Is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact?
I am Ra. You are conscientious. The alignments are well. I am Ra. in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai.
All right. 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 All right.
Hmm?